Hi, and welcome to Prepping Essentials.
Good morning, it's 6:45 on Saturday the 5th of September. Just making my way down to the land. As always, not quite sure what we'll get done today as we're making it up as we go along, but let's find out. Well, here we are down on the land, and it's a little bit cool this morning. I think the sun is trying to make an appearance just over the trees there, but it's certainly not here yet. It's been quite cool all week, really. A bit of a change in the weather, certainly a change in the temperatures. Forecast, if you can believe it, does say that it might warm up next week, but it is forecast for a cool and perhaps a little bit wet weekend. A bit disappointed with that because, I don't know if you can see or not, but the grass is certainly growing and I would like to get it cut again. But at the moment it's too wet underfoot to do that. So fingers crossed for next weekend, I guess. Anyway, as usual, get myself in, opened up. I'll definitely be putting the kettle on, might even be putting the fire on at this rate. We'll see, I guess, in due course. Good job I came back when I did, because that green one is about full. So I just need to swap the pipe over, then we'll get back in the polytunnel. Couldn't resist lighting the fire in the cabin while we take a stroll around the polytunnel. I've done a little bit of moving around in here this week when I've popped down to water on the way back from work. So you'll see that I've moved the strawberries across to this side of the polytunnel. They were getting a bit crowded out with the the tomato forest that we've got going on. So I've pulled out those trays of new plants. The old ones are still on the other side, and I'll show you those in a second. But you can see I've got lots and lots now of new strawberry plants. So it should be a bumper crop next year. Blueberry bush still putting out lots of new growth. I think it is starting to slow down, but hardly surprising since we're into September already. But that's turned out to be a really big bush. I think it might need a little bit of trimming at some point just to tidy it up, but very happy with the progress. The peas, who'd have guessed it, are having a second flush of life, putting out flowers on all of the plants actually, which is quite surprising. They came within a hair's breadth of being ripped out, and similarly the cucumber is putting out new growth and new cucumbers. They're everywhere. Lots of them. Yeah, so quite good with that. Don't know what's going on with that squash. Produced nothing at all except leaf. This, what was a tiny blueberry plant, is now, as you can see, putting on lots and lots and lots of new growth, turning into a proper sized bush now. And the cranberry equally is going everywhere. Thanks for the people who commented on this other plant that's mixed in. I think you said it was sorrel. So I'm going to have a little fiddle with that and try and remove it from the cranberry and put it into its own little pot. Tomato plants, tomato forest. It's taken over the entire polytunnel. No shortage of leaves and flowers. You'll know that there was a shortage of tomatoes, but having said that, if we delve into the forest, you'll see that there's a couple there that are just about ripe, and equally we've got lots of green ones hiding away, but we've also got, in amongst the green, some more that are just starting to ripen. And in fact a couple of them are, I would say that a little tiny one and maybe that bigger one are actually ripe. So we have got tomatoes, albeit a tiny amount given the amount of foliage that we've got going on here. But we have got some. And there's a few more over this side that are just starting to turn. Get that leaf out the way. So we do have them, just not a lot of them. You never know, those little plants that I put in that are now buried at the back there, they might produce, you never know. We'll see how we get on with those. The original strawberries are still hidden away under the tomatoes back here in these pots. And this fig tree continues to put out new growth. Going to be interesting to see what happens with that as we go through winter. And we have got that little one fig lurking away. In terms of new stuff, the cuttings of the blueberry and cranberry are still green and seem to be okay, with the odd extra tomato plant, strawberry plant thrown in for good measure. The carrots that I put in, very disappointing this tub. There's only, I think, 3 plants, maybe 4 plants. There's a little stray one there that have come through there. The others, better showing of plants, but compared to earlier in the year when I put the original carrots in, these are not doing as well, and I suspect that's just down to the time of year. But you know, we'll keep on going with them and see if we can get some harvested for Christmas time. The cauliflower plants coming on quite strongly. I don't think that they're as strong as the original ones I planted at the start of the year. Again, that's probably down to the time of year that I've put them in. but I am hopeful that I'll get another harvest before Christmas. I guess the big debate is, do I put them outside, or do I transplant them into bigger pots, or even create a bed in here in the polytunnel? I don't know, we'll see. And then finally there's these other 2 trays that went in a couple of weeks after that one. They are definitely not growing as strongly as the originals, definitely not. Now whether that's because they're under this forest of tomatoes and they're not getting the light or not, I don't know. I might move them over the other side. Anyway, that's the polytunnel. I'm going to get myself back in the cabin, check on that fire, and get that cup of coffee down me. We'll see what else we can get done today. The sun is trying to get out, but it is definitely cold, and I'll never get the grass done today because it is wet underfoot. But we'll see as the day progresses. It is nice to have a little fire going in the cabin. And this little stove does light very, very quickly. I do have to say I'm really quite impressed with this. It draws really well, and it throws out a surprising amount of heat, even with the door of the cabin open. Sitting here, as I will be in a second, with my cup of coffee, it's very nice indeed. It's interesting in the winter months to see how much of the cabin it heats up, if it goes all the way through into the original cabin over there. Talking about which, I've just popped in a couple of bags of fertiliser that I managed to acquire. So I've just popped them in there. It's autumn winter granular fertiliser, so I'll be popping some of that down at some point. But yeah, for now I'm going to chuck another lot on the fire and sit down and have my cup of coffee. Well, I'm just taking 5 minutes. I've had a bit of a tidy up in the polytunnel, and all my water's filled up now. So I'm just going to relax for 5 minutes with a cup of coffee. Thought I'd say hi to everyone. Hope you're all doing well. American cousins, hope you've got through the it was a hurricane rather than a storm, I think, that hit the southern coastal states. Hope that you're all right over there. How is everybody doing with the COVID-19 crisis? It's certainly taken its toll over here in the UK, and we're getting more and more people out of work, unfortunately. Fingers crossed it'll not include myself, but you never know. So with that in mind, are you doing anything different to prepare yourself? Unemployment is one of the biggest problem issues that can arise for anybody, really, anywhere in the world. You don't have to have some massive natural disaster or economic disaster to have your life turned upside down. Unemployment will certainly do that. So are you doing anything different? As far as I'm concerned, I am. I'm tending to try and not spend as much. I'm trying to pay down any debt that I might have. Really the only debt I do have is my house. So I am taking advantage of the fact that I can pay extra on my mortgage. I'm allowed, I think, 10% overpayment per year. So that's something that I'm definitely doing. I'm trying to get rid of debt as quickly as I can and set a little bit of cash aside, just in case we do have a full-blown economic crisis. At least I'll have something set aside to ride out the storm if the job cuts do include me. Other things that I'm doing right now, I am still topping up on food. You'll have seen a couple of videos over the past few months on the subject of emergency long-term food storage. So I am definitely topping up as and when I do my normal shopping, which I will be this weekend for sure. And I am paying a lot of attention now, doing a lot of research to try and figure out what I can start to grow as we go through the winter to get a head start in the spring. Next year is going to be very interesting in terms of the polytunnel and the raised bed. I've learned quite a lot this year as to what works and what doesn't work. And whilst a lot of the stuff was experimental, I mean, cucumbers, I don't really eat cucumbers very much. We don't really have salad weather here in the UK. So I think the focus will be on bang for buck in terms of the crops I plant next year. Potatoes, be doing a lot more of those. Carrots for sure, I'll be doing a lot more of those. I'll probably give a miss on the broccoli. I might try a different type of broccoli just to see how I get on with that. But for the time and effort invested, that's a motorcycle, a big motorcycle by the sounds of it, going down the road. Yeah, in terms of actual result for all that time and effort with the broccoli, very disappointing. And it's a shame because I really do like broccoli, and it's something that I eat pretty much daily actually. I do try and eat fresh vegetables every day, and it normally is potato, carrot, broccoli, cauliflower, in that order. So yeah, broccoli, I might give it a miss. I might try a different variety just to see what works better. Cauliflower, yes, I'll be doing those. They were far better in terms of results than the broccoli was. But the clear winners this year have been potatoes and carrots. So I'll definitely be doing a lot more of those. I will need to expand as well on the number of raised beds, and I am going to have to figure out a way of stopping the rabbits, the birds, etc. from beating me to the harvest and them eating it first. So yeah, it's going to be interesting over winter. A lot of little projects will be coming through, construction type projects with the raised beds, and of course once the decision's made about what I'm going to do with the polytunnel. Cooking, that's something that I've done a bit more of this year, in terms of different things to cook and different ways of using my preps, and you should see a couple more of those over the coming days as I do a little bit more experimentation with my long-term food stores. While I have a fairly decent variety of different types of bulk dry food and bulk canned goods, I am conscious that were I to have to rely on those for an extended period, the meal variety could become a bit tiring, a bit bland. So I am doing a lot of digging around, research on the internet and on YouTube in particular, looking at what other people might have come up with in terms of ideas for different recipes. And now I have found quite a bit of wild forage type food in and around the field. I'll certainly be exploring that in greater detail as I go through next year. It is a little bit late this year now because we're almost into autumn already, and a lot of the stuff is starting to die back, and an awful lot of it has been eaten by the different kind of wildlife that I have, particularly in that wooded area outside. They beat me to it in terms of blackberries in particular, but elderberries, definitely interested in doing more with those. I did pick some during the week with a view to making some jam, but just not enough of them. They're not ripening. You'll have seen on the field behind the cabin here in that woodland, there's lots of elderberry bushes, but they're looking very old and tired. So I am going to definitely be trying to grow some of those from cuttings in order to bump up production rate of elderberries. Blackberries, there are a lot. I just need to get them under control and figure out when they do harvest, because similarly I'll be trying to use those in a cooking recipe as well. On the subject of wild edibles, there's a few other different trees that I might take a look at that don't currently grow here. I can't do anything but buy some at this stage, but again in future years hopefully I can either take seed or take cuttings. And there is a couple of damson trees which I've not even looked at, to be fair, because they are slightly out of my boundary of the field. My neighbour has one in his field and he did say take a look at it, so I might. And I think there are some more buried in amongst the trees, just a little bit out from my boundary, so at some point I'll take a look and fight my way through the undergrowth and see what they're like for cropping. And again, if there's suitable amounts of fruit, I'll explore what can be done with those. A couple of other little things whilst I'm on the subject of what am I doing to prepare. One area that I've rapidly discovered is a little bit lacking in my preps, is tools. Whilst I do have a selection of tools, and you'll have seen me use those on various construction projects that I've done during the year, since I got the little red tractor and started using that extensively, and I have had a couple of different mishaps, whether it's old belts slipping which needed replacing, whether it's punctures in tyres which needed repairing, or in one case replacing. I'm conscious that I am going to have to do a lot more maintenance on that kind of machinery, and to be fair, I've realised that my selection of tools has been more around your home DIY rather than off-grid kind of survival type equipment and tools, or repairing of bigger machinery type tools. So I am going to explore that. I've held off a little bit, if I'm honest, as we've gone through this COVID crisis, because I've kind of seen the writing on the wall for an upcoming economic crisis and the potential for large-scale job loss, and it's kind of worried me a little bit as to how fragile the economy and the job situation might well be come the end of this year. And I don't think there's anybody that can ever say they're going to be not at risk, except for politicians, of course. They're going to be not at risk of redundancy and layoffs. So I have kind of curtailed my spending a little bit. I've got a massive wish list on Amazon and eBay, and as we head towards the end of the year and I get a little bit more certainty about my job prospects, then I might release that money that I've been setting aside and start to invest in a few more tools. I've bought the odd thing here and there, and you'll have seen me using some of those things that I didn't have, like tyre irons for changing tyres on the wheelbarrow and the tractor. Jacking equipment. While I have a jack in my car, it's for that car. It's not really transferable, or the design of that is not really transferable for using on things like the tractor. So I have invested in those. But yeah, I do need still to look at my tools situation, and perhaps also start to set aside things like spare parts. I've bought some more ceramic filters for my gravity water filter system. I mean, they're expensive on a good day, so if we do start to have a little bit more of a crisis and more people start thinking along the same lines, and start stocking up on spares, I suspect the price of those will rapidly increase. So I've done that. I've done a bit of gathering up of spares, so things like electrical cable, connectors. I do need to stock up on things for the water harvesting system, such as extra pipes and fittings. And indeed, at some point, I'm going to have to buy some more of those IBC water storage tanks. So yeah, fingers crossed with the job situation, and as we head towards the end of the year, I'll probably feel a bit more comfortable to release more money into the bigger items, because it is amazing how much tools and spare parts actually do cost. So there's a bit of a variety of things there that I've been thinking about over the last couple of weeks, and things that perhaps might trigger you into thinking about what you have set aside and are there any gaps in your preps. It's great to have the food and water down. I'm quite comfortable with that. I'm fairly comfortable about my debt situation and having some cash set aside. But I am conscious that I am lacking a little bit in things like tools and spare parts. So that's something that I intend to address over the next few months. Anyway, that's enough of me rambling on. There are a few little odd jobs that I need to do. I'm going to go and collect some more elderberries. I'll take a look at that tub of potatoes as well, see what's happening in there and how good or bad a harvest we've had with those. And there's a couple of little, they're non-jobs really, they're sort of catch-up jobs around the cabin. I've kind of held up on project work. I do have a big list of stuff that I want to do in the cabin itself. But again, as I said earlier, I've slowed down a bit this last probably couple of months, whilst I'm looking to see what happens at the back end of this year. So yeah, if I seem to have slowed down in my recent videos in terms of construction type stuff, you're absolutely right, I have. But hopefully that's kind of an explanation of why I have slowed down. We are entering some very uncertain times, and I know I've said it in a few videos, but I can't really emphasise it enough. We've gone through a major crisis with COVID. Whilst it's not been the disease itself that's been the crisis, it's been the economic and political impact that it's created, and we're a long way away from that being resolved. Certainly the rest of this year is looking extremely fragile, and it wouldn't surprise me if this does rumble on. Certainly the economic effects will through next year. So anyway, I hope you're all doing well. I hope that you're not being impacted too badly by the COVID crisis or the economic and impending bigger economic crisis. And for those of you in the States, and indeed a couple of other countries around the world where the political situation is a little bit fragile, with elections coming up in the States this year, there are some disturbing signs in the States as to what might happen at the end of this year, depending on who does or doesn't win. I try to avoid the political stuff, but I am conscious that our American cousins are heading into a bit of an uncertain time politically as well, and there could be knock-on civil unrest effects from that. I hope not, touch wood, and that everything does go smoothly and people retain their sanity and we get through the winter and Christmas into the new year without any major problems. But if you're in that part of the world, please do keep your eye out, and certainly as we head through the back end of this year, don't neglect topping up your preps and taking a look, like I'm doing, to see what gaps there might be in some of the things that you don't often think about on a day-to-day basis, like tools and spares. Anyway, I'll finish this coffee off and then I'll get cracking and I'll catch up with you in a short while. Right, let's see what we can get out of this potato barrel. See how many we've got from this one. Hopefully it's a little bit better than the last one. We're already finding some. It's a bit wet, but let's keep going, see what we can find. This is surprisingly heavy. Okay, let's take a little look. It's actually very wet inside here, which is a little bit of a concern. But they're coming out. There's still a lot hiding in the barrel that you can't see. A little bit on the small size, some of them. But they're still there. I'm just checking inside the barrel whether I can pop it back and throw the soil back in. Yeah, I think that's all of them out of the barrel. So we'll just pop that back. And then start getting some of this soil back in. The soil looks in very good condition, to be fair. Quite a few. Just try to be careful not to throw any potatoes back in the barrel. Okay. Some more. One trying to escape. You're getting better. Oh, if you can see this or not, we've got a little ant colony going on inside that barrel. That's not good. You see those? You just bring it up to the camera. That's a little ant colony. Oh, we don't want that. Oh, it's still producing. And some more. Well, I think we've passed the total for the previous barrel, and we've still got some. Quite a few actually. Got some fairly decent sized ones in amongst there. Would have been better had this been a little bit drier, but they've been in for quite a while now, and what I don't want is for them to start rotting, so they haven't to come out really. There's a large one there. Another one. Another large one. Some baby ones. The good news so far is that I'm not seeing any scab or rot. They are coming out wet, but without any significant damage, which is good. I think we're about getting to the bottom. Another one. Yeah, I think we're about done. There might be one stray one in there. Yeah, there's one there. And I think that's it. So, there we go. There's our harvest. I'll get rid of all this, get the stalks in the compost heap, and then I'll have a look through these and see what we've got. But nice crop there. Well, I've just had to quickly retreat inside the polytunnel because I don't know if you can see outside or not, but the clouds have dropped down. I'm guessing you can hear that on the roof of the polytunnel. It's started chucking it down with rain, would you believe? But there we are, there's the crop of potatoes. Just quick count up there, there's 45, might be 46, but certainly 45 from a quick count up. And some quite decent sized ones in there. If I can get my hand in, you can see the size of some of these. They're, you know, decent sized potatoes. Even the smallest of them, which is like these things here, they're still nice for boiling up or steaming. So yeah, quite pleased with that. Again, for the size of the container, I'm not saying it's the best crop that I could have had, because it isn't, but I think given the weather we've had this year with those prolonged periods of drought, that will have had an impact on growth. So to be fair, I'm quite happy with those, and we'll be testing those out over the weekend to see how they taste. Well, here I am buried in amongst the bramble patches and the wooded area. I'm just busy trying to collect as many of these elderberries as I can. The biggest problem I've got is this is really steep sided, and the trees are so old, or most of them are, that everything is buried up in the canopy. There's not that much that's low lying, but we are making progress. I have got a decent bag full, and hopefully with what I've already got, I should be able to do something with them. Well, here I am buried inside the wooded area on the boundary of my field. I am literally on the boundary now. This water that you can see is the drainage ditch that runs along the northern boundary. This is the damson tree, or one of them. This one just here. And you can see there's a lot of old dead growth in here. There are damsons on there. Don't know if you'll be able to see on the video or not. I've just pulled a couple off in my hand here. I've no idea what these are like. So I'm just going to have a little bit more of a rummage around. Everything is up in the canopy, unfortunately. There's nothing. All of the low-lying branches you can see here, they're all dead. Absolutely, you know, just so all the fruit is up high in the tree rather than down near to the ground. There might be some more buried in amongst there, because I mean there's plenty to go at down there. It's just fighting your way through the undergrowth. But I'll see if I can pull a few off to show you, and I'll have a little bit more of a rummage around. The rain just keeps coming and going. I'm all right under the trees here, but out on the field I was getting a bit wet. So I'll have a little 5-minute mooch around here, see what else there is, and then get back to the cabin. Well, there's my little collection of damsons that I've just plucked off the tree. I wasn't trying to harvest a big crop or anything. As I said earlier in the video, the majority of the fruit is high up in the canopy, way too high up for me to be able to reach. And to be fair, a lot of them are actually rotting on the tree. These are the better ones that haven't got overripe. So I'll take those home and give them a wash, and just I'll do a little taste test to see how they are. But again, it's like everything here, it's a learning experience. Knowing when the fruit is going to be cropping, and more importantly, I guess, knowing where it is. Because without rummaging around in there, you wouldn't know it was there. I'm just fortunate, I guess, that my neighbour Gary just happened to mention to me back in the summer that the damson trees were there. So it's taken me until now to fight my way through the undergrowth to go and have a look. But yeah, it's producing fruit, and to be fair, there's an awful lot of it on these old trees. Could just do with some new trees, really. So maybe that's something to do or to look at in the new year. See if I can't propagate some of those. Well, that's the cabin locked up. Don't know what this weather's doing today. 1 minute it's throwing it down with rain, the next minute the sun's breaking out. But looking at the clouds, I suspect it's going to be more of a rain day than it is a sun day. And that wind keeps picking up as well. Polytunnel's all closed up. I've got my potatoes to pop in the car. Little water can there. That's drinking water that I bring in from home, just to top up my water filter every now and again. Don't really have to do it. I could use the water out the rainwater harvesting, but until I get more experience with it, I just keep bringing that in every now and again. So, going to get myself back to the car, some chores to do this afternoon, and hopefully we'll have a few videos for you over the coming days.
Well, that's it for this video. I hope there was something in there that was of interest to you. If you did like the video, please do click on the like button. Also feel free to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. As always, I welcome any comments, questions or suggestions you might have. Have you been looking at your preps, trying to figure out where the gaps are and what you need to do to fill them? Let me know in the comments section below. But for now, thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.